like, why are we on stage?
I could hear you the whole time.
I could me work out every day now. Welcome back to Calling All Beings, everybody. I'm your host, DJ, along with the legendary Massachusetts one right there. And her name is
Boston Bia.
That's right. The legend. Oh, man. And we have, this Saturday night, we have Stacy Brown Jr.
Yes, the 21st.
And Jimmy yeah, the 21st.
8 p.m. Eastern.
What time are we having it?
You have it as 8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern. Good. And Stacy is, I got to make sure I communicate. We're going to have Jim and Sibylla as co-hosts. We may have some other cabbies in there from our cab co-host cadre. So, yeah, pretty exciting. So let's say hello to people here, and then we'll get things queued up. Let's start at the top. The Jules is here. She may, I think she has the link. Jules, tell me, let me put the link back in our mod chat, just in case. Terry's here. Hi, Terry. How's everything going with you? I know you dealt with some difficult things with one of your folks. I think it's your mom. I don't know if it's your mom or your dad, but let us know how you're doing. We'll put this in the mod chat. We're also going to take calls. If somebody wants to call. So, this is new page. Oh, wow. I can now welcome guests with my new show. Well, how do I do that? Okay. Show me. All right. Let me put this in the mod chat because, Jules may have something, or I shouldn't say may. I'm sure she does. She's Jules. She's got something.
Of course she does.
Let's see. Now I got to find the mod chat in my thing here, in my Mac stuff. Did you get your new Mac all connected up with your, I might need your help.
I can put it in the mod chat if you want to continue.
Yeah, please do that. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the only thing with the Mac is that I have to send it on X so that it opens up on Google, on Chrome.
No, you just right click it and then you say open with and on Chrome. So no, you can do it right from your Mac, right from Messenger, right from whatever. You just tell it which program you want to open that link. Do you have Chrome downloaded?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're good then. That's all you need to do. Right click it.
No, but every time I try to open it through Messenger, it automatically wants to open the StreamYard app. Because
you're not right clicking it. You have to right click it and then tell it and says open link with, and then you pick Chrome. So two finger tap. We'll get you Mac'd up. No problem. We're going to get you Mac'd up. It takes
not
time.
easy.
Yeah. Or if you use your mouse, you just right click.
All right. No, I did.
All right. So Kim P is here. Well, no, if you do and you have Chrome, then you just tell it to open it. That's how I do it. I do it the exact same way. Let's see. Sarah Shotgun, how are you here? There's somebody named, it looks like Boston _Bia. Did you guys see her? Donnie Knott Wahlberg is here from Bigfoot, Massachusetts. Brenna's here. Hi, Brenna. Granny Debbie is here. Hello. Melissa EK1DL, or is that DI? I'm not sure. If you're a drill instructor, I'm running the other way as soon as I see that ad. Okay, so we have some starters for you guys tonight. And we also are going to open the phone line. So the phone lines, if somebody wants to call in, we'll put that up here in a little bit. But why don't we start off with General McCaslin, and then we'll get to the pyramid stuff. And this is courtesy of the great Ashley Banfield, who has been on MSNBC, News Nation. I don't know how many networks she's been on, but she is a great, great broadcaster. And this is Ashley right there. Her YouTube is called Drop Dead Serious. And I believe she's also on podcast as well. So without further ado, let's get Boston Bia. You caught up like Kevy Kev on General Neil McCaslin.
All right. Let's go for it.
Let's go fire. I know that Julie knows who she is, who he is. I know many of you don't know, but let's get to this and see what we got here. There we go. Thank you, Miss Banfield. Here we go.
This is Drop Dead Serious. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. So listen, I know that the majority of true crime fanatics have been following the Nancy Guthrie case, right? Going into its 7th week. I mean, it's just this mystifying missing persons case. But there's another missing persons case that should be as big because the consequences of this person going missing could be far more severe for all of us, right? So
first of all, Ashley, since you're in Vermont, would you like Boston Bia to come visit? I'm just putting it out there.
If you haven't heard of retired Air Force Major General William Neil McCasland, get comfy because it is a critical case. I get it. There's a silver alert that went out for General McCasland, but it is a lot more than just a silver alert. Okay, I think General McCasland is 68 years old, but he has no issues medically speaking. He doesn't have dementia. He's not a wanderer. It's not like that. No, he is sharp as a tack. Where'd you hear that before? Sharp as a tack. It's what Sheriff Nanos said about Nancy Guthrie in the first day that the story began getting coverage in Arizona. Well, this is in New Mexico. The General McCasland case is in New Mexico, and he is also sharp as a tack. In fact, General McCasland might be one of the smartest Americans we've ever put out because he's got quite a resume, and his resume is what is causing.
We don't know that he's smarter than Boston Bia, so I think you should just hold off on that, Ashley.
Let's just say a case for some alarm. Because this guy shouldn't go missing. And if he does go missing, it could be really problematic for a lot of people. And it could be very problematic for McCasland's family because of all the things he knows. Let me back it up a little bit. According to the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, he goes by Neil. So General Neil McCasland was last seen on February 27th, about 11 o'clock in the morning. And if you know the area, he's in the area of Quail Run Court, northeast in Albuquerque. So law enforcement, they're saying that he left his home on foot and he did not take his phone and he did not take his watch. So those are things that might be a little odd for most of us who now can't be without our phones for a hot minute. I can't go upstairs without it. I will come back down and take it up.
Bia can be
search
without her
efforts
phone.
have been
She's done it for 5 minutes.
remarkable, right? There have been official teams that have been dispatched. Friends have been out there. Neighbors have been out there. People have been on horseback searching. They've sent up drones. They've sent up helicopters. They've had 3 different kinds of search dogs that have gone out. They've had full neighborhood canvassing, door to door, knocking on doors, right? People have been asked to check their ring cams, their doorbell cams, whatever kind of cams they have, their security cams, their wildlife cams, right? A lot of people have wildlife cameras. And the police have been asking for every scrap of video that anybody might be able to offer. And it hasn't just been in that neighborhood either. The investigators have gone a lot wider than the circumference of just his area. So there was reporting just in the week before that authorities actually knocked on 600 different doors. Proverbially speaking, some may have been.
Okay, so now that we kind of know that he's missing, I want to get to the part where she brings in Ben Hansen. For those of you who don't know who Ben Hansen is, he's a former FBI agent. He is a prodigious aviator and pilot, and there are many commercial and military pilots who have spoken. He's on, I think he's on Discovery Channel. Ben Hansen is, and many pilots will contact him and tell him about their UFO sightings or encounters while flying. So that's kind of, let me get to where we get to Ben. And then she's going to talk about where she's in Vermont. And that means that's why Bia can go visit.
Things surrounding those things. Ross is an Australian investigative journalist. He's an author. He's a documentary producer. He's also the senior special investigations correspondent for News Nation. And Ross believes that the government, actually many governments, have covered up knowledge of extraterrestrial spacecraft. And Ross is an advocate for UFO disclosure. He made some very big headlines this week when he said that General Neil McCaslin, quote, is one of the most significant figures ever to be linked to the disclosure conversations around unidentified aerial phenomena, and described him as, quote, someone who has served at the highest levels of Air Force and defense world with oversight of classified aerospace and special programs. Quick note from my sponsor, most people don't realize how exposed their digital lives really are until something goes wrong. Like, why is the story of General McCaslin, for lack of a better description, not bigger?
Look, Ashley, it's a very complex issue why General McCaslin is such an important figure in not just national security, but especially the UAP mystery, the mystery of unidentified anomalous phenomena. I noticed there's been a lot of ill-informed commentary speculating that it's all nonsense and there's nothing to this. He lost his clearances in 2013 when he left the Air Force. He couldn't possibly know anything now that would be useful, and all the UFO stuff is just specious nonsense. That is not the case. General Neil McCaslin was recorded in leaks that were leaked by the Russian GRU, where they tapped in to the private Gmail of John Podesta. John Podesta was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager in the years running up to the 2016 election. And as you would remember, Ashley, back then, everybody thought Trump had an ice cube's chance in hell of winning against Hillary Clinton. She was seen as a dead cert, rightly or wrongly. And a lot of the people in the Pentagon who've been protecting what I think is one of the biggest secrets in human history, the mystery of non-human intelligence engaging with this planet, they knew the game was up. And so a covert liaison began between John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, and people like Robert Weiss, the chief executive of Skunk Works at Lockheed Martin, General Michael Carey, a former very senior US Air Force Space Command general, and General Neil McCaslin. And, believe it or not, Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink-182,
How
the
about
rock
that,
band. Why on earth was this disparate group of people meeting? Well, the leaked emails that were eventually posted on WikiLeaks through the GRU, Russian military intelligence, they show that for many months prior to the election, there was an ongoing conversation between General Neil McCaslin and all of these people about UAP disclosure, about revealing the existence of a non-human intelligence engaging with this planet. This is why a lot of people who are saying there's nothing to this have no idea what they're talking about. And it really shocks me that one of the things we forget is our history. And if we forget our history, we forget the real story. General Neil McCaslin isn't just one of the most senior generals in the US military, now retired. He's somebody who was cleared to the very highest levels of some of our deepest, darkest and most important national security secrets. He was for a while in charge of all SAPs, Special Access Programs. He was the liaison who handled the administration of SAPs, which is essentially America's deepest, darkest secrets. He then went on until 2013 to be the commander of the US Air Force's research laboratories at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And it's Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where most of the military's secret investigations into weaponry, aerospace, new technologies, new propulsion systems are done. It's a massive facility with extensive underground structures. General Neil McCaslin ran the whole joint. Now, sadly, I feel terribly for his wife, Susan. She's spoken publicly and issued a statement, and she's obviously distressed by the speculation that Neil McCasland might have been abducted or kidnapped or taken by potentially some foreign adversary power, or maybe some private military contractor that doesn't want him to talk about something. And she's concerned that there's excessive speculation that because of his past employment in the Air Force, it might lead to an over-speculation that he knows something now. The simple fact is, he does. General Neil McCasland has some of the biggest secrets in his head, not just about the UFO UAP mystery. You can put that aside for one moment. He's cleared to top secret compartmented levels up to 2013 on secrets that still persist to this day about American weapons.
I just got a message from Pepper. I copied that, Pepper. Sounds good.
Technology, space weapons, but also, and this is proven in these leaked emails from WikiLeaks, also the UAP mystery. And it was incredibly Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink-182, who went into detail about what General Neil McCasland admitted he knew because of his privileged information as a senior US Air Force general. He told Tom DeLonge that during the Cold War, the United States found a life form, an alien life form, and that he retrieved and oversaw the retrieval of alien spacecraft. This is a reality. It's not idle speculation. This is a truth admitted by a senior Pentagon general to, believe it or not, incredibly, you couldn't write this as a movie, a rock star who was fascinated in UFOs.
Well, lest anybody think it's just a rock star, he's also a documentary producer and he's doing projects, of that ilk. So it's not just he reached out to a rock musician. There was more to it. Well, I'm curious, though, about General McCasland's interactions with the U.S. government, whether there had been a lot of plans for him to testify at any point, whether he'd made overtures that we know of. What do you know about his background and what he wanted to do, or what maybe the government wanted him to do or not?
Okay, we do know that barely a few weeks prior to General Neil McCasland's disappearance on February the 27th, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, made a promise. He made that promise on social media, on Truth Social. He didn't yet make it as an executive order, but what he pledged was that he would declassify the UAP files, including files on extraterrestrial life. In any other context, this would be treated as an extraordinary news story, but there is some kind of mental block at the moment in so much of the legacy news media. They failed to pick up on the enormous significance of what Donald Trump was signalling. President Trump has been briefed. I know he's been briefed. Very limited briefing, but he's certainly apprised now of the existence of a non-human intelligence engaging with this planet. He knows that his Pentagon has been flat out lying to the American public for much of the last 70, 80 years. And for me as a journalist, it was a huge leap to realize that this was the case. I've been raised with an expectation that America is one of the great moral leaders of the world, that it's essentially protected us from tyranny and authoritarian rule for the last 80 plus years since the end of World War II. We look to America for moral leadership. And what shocked me as an investigative journalist getting into this subject matter was to realize that the truth was vastly different from that represented by the US Defense Department. The public has been lied to, and President Trump realized this. And the interesting thing is, what's happening at the moment is Trump has very slowly started indicating that he's willing to pull back the layers, to show the public what the deep state, and this does fit with his moral narrative, that there's this deep state that has been withholding information from the American public, and indeed, he believes, trying to undermine his authority and his potential leadership. So for him, there's a motivation in...
Let's see if we've got enough to chew on there. Boston B, I'd like to get your reaction, and then we'll go to Jules, because I know Jules has talked extensively with some of her friends in the UFO community about this. So, Bia, what's your initial reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ashley how this should be. I mean, I honestly hadn't heard a lot about this at all. Like, this should be more, you know, more awareness should be on this case. And, to what are they doing to find this man? Like, I feel like we haven't heard much of anything. And just like the news, they pick up a story and they play it at nauseum, but the problem doesn't go away. But they just move on to the next story.
Right. Right.
But it sounds like he has a lot of information that makes him. I mean, the U.S. should be trying to find him, and those that powers that be should, because of the information that and the things he knows, as they said. So.
Yeah. By the way, so Ashley Banfield's the information for her show will be in the show notes for YouTube and for the podcast. It's called Drop Dead Serious. The link is also in the chat, and I appreciate it that not that we were able to contact her and get permission, but I want to make sure that she gets full credit for producing this story, even though she's only in Vermont and Bia could go have coffee with her. So there's that. Julie, this is something I know you've talked about extensively with friends. So what are your thoughts?
Well, can you hear me okay, first of all? First time I'd use these things. Yeah? Okay, great.
Yeah, got you loud and clear.
It's
yeah,
broken down pretty much in... Good. My friends are pretty much split into two different camps. You have the camp that says some foreign actor or some actor from the government, ours, has gone and picked him up. And that's why he's disappeared without his phone and everything. Or he was going to a meeting to meet with someone, for a governmental matter, and you don't take your phones and your watches and things into those kind of meetings. And that's camp one, and that somebody has him that either is our government or someone else's government. And then there's a third one that is he left on his own because he thought somebody was coming to pick him up. And quite frankly, that's the one that I buy into. But it would be scary to be in that poor man's position, and his poor wife and her statements, that they're being looked at. It's like the Doppler process is probably for her too. They're going to, control anything that comes out about this, because it is a serious, serious matter. And I don't know why the news is not covering it more. I was glad to see the true crime community pick it up. I was thrilled because it went on for a week before anybody at all picked it up. And I'm glad that somebody is actually talking about it, because that will make people talk about it.
You know what I was going to ask you, Jules, because you had mentioned, I think in a private message to me, that you had been talking to your friend Linda Thompson. So can you share with kind of who Linda Thompson is as an experiencer, and then maybe what your conversations might have been, if you're comfortable sharing that with the public?
Well, Linda Thompson is a great researcher and a good friend, and I would not feel comfortable sharing any of our conversations, quite frankly.
Okay,
she's really smart, and the things that she says online, I would pay attention to, but the private conversations, I'm not at liberty to discuss. I apologize.
Not private, but kind of like things. Let me couch it to you this way. Linda's an experiencer as well, multiple time experiencer with UFOs, as is her children and grandchildren. So there's that. She's a grandma. And what I would ask you, Jules, is did you guys discuss the possibility that maybe General McCaslin was abducted? Has that been a conversation? And I mean by NHI.
Actually, no.
Okay.
Yeah, by NHI. No, nobody has brought that up. And it is interesting, but not a lot of people are even on like UFO Twitter, UFO X. Not a lot of people are even broaching that I've noticed yet. Now, granted, I'm not everywhere all the time, but only here and there does someone say they think it might have been NHI. And, we just don't know. We just don't know. I think that a terrestrial explanation is probably more at hand myself, but
That's fair.
you can't rule that out. You can't rule that out.
Yeah,
if he has friends in high places, maybe they came to help him, if he has friends in high places.
I just thought I wanted to throw it just to see if it had any resonance with you at all. And I want to throw this out there. Let me get our number in there. I believe, let's see if Bia remembers our number. Bia, do you remember our number? I think it's 719. Okay.
I can look it up.
I got it. Here it is. Here it is.
Oh, okay.
The cab calling number is 719-602-4464. Call us with your paranormal UFO or Bigfoot experiences. Yeah. Here on WCAB 99 Rocks. So anyway,
Or for the rest of us, 619-719.
yes.
602-4464.
Yeah, what she just said. So if anybody wants to call in with any experiences, we're here for it. What did his family say? All right, let's get some questions in here. Donnie Knott Wahlberg, what did his family say was the state of mind he was in before he left? I'll share what I know, but let's let Jules go first.
It was normal. He had just completed a 20-mile bike ride that week. He had no problems, with his mental capabilities at all. The silver alert wasn't because he's like Alzheimer's or something. No way. He wouldn't still have his like.
Sorry.
All right.
Chad Weezy.
That's okay.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Jules, but the phone, it's not like, first of all, Chad, are you on? Can you hear us? Are you on the air?
Yeah. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, got you loud and clear. I just want to let everybody know it's not like a radio studio where the producer can hold calls backstage. It basically interrupts the show as they call. So I apologize, Jules, for, would you like to finish that thought? And then we'll get Chad in here.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Jules.
Yeah, he was in tip-top shape for a man of his age. Pretty much is how I've heard it from everybody who could possibly have any kind of knowledge of the situation. So yeah, they're just, he was in good shape. I don't think they were expecting him to just not come back. There was something about a cable guy or somebody in the house before he disappeared. And the wife went to like a doctor's appointment or some kind of an appointment. And when she came back, he was just gone. And, and having some repairman in the vicinity is kind of fishy too.
Chad, if you can go to mute real quick. Oh, we might have to. I can hear someone singing in the back room. Chad, call back if you want to talk, but we can't have that. Not that I don't like that singing, because that would be good in any other situation. But yeah, we had to let him go. So if you want to call in, it is 719-602-4464. Give us a call, and you can talk live on air with Boston Bia and Jules. Yeah. All right, there we Bia's like, yeah, this is really entertaining. If I had a paddle, I'd hit you right now. Actually,
I like it.
Bia, would you want to hit me with an oar or a paddle? Or a tennis racket?
A whip. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow!
I'd like to whip you.
Me, Bia. Okay.
That's right.
All right. So yeah, Chad, call back in if you got something. But and whoever was singing was very good, actually. So hey, Chaos Granny, welcome. So if you have anything paranormal, UFO, Bigfoot, questions, comments, concerns, we got people here to answer your question. All right.
Questions, concerns, or emotional outbursts.
That's right. Yeah, that's for my next briefing that I do. I'm going to say that in honor of Bia. Questions, concerns, emotional outbursts, anyone. And just look around the room. Okay.
Yes,
Okay, I'm going to try that. I think that's going to score big, actually, Bia. So
I
thank
think
you for that.
so. No
You
problem.
gave me that
Anytime, I'm
today
here.
earlier today on the phone and said I should use that during briefings. Should we go to the next one? I don't know if Ben Hansen actually got in there or not. So that would be that'd be very interesting. Ross Cotat. Do you want to see if there's any more meat on the bone here? Ross is kind of long-winded. Let's see what he says.
Influence
That's
in the
special.
Congress.
So obviously that brings the conversation back to General McCaslin, because
Ooh, perfect
there
timing.
are so many potential theories as to what might have happened. And I want to go back to his wife for a moment, because I feel as though if anybody knows that General McCaslin might have been a target, it might be his wife. And she's the one person who seems to be throwing cold water on the possibility that there could be something very nefarious afoot because of his background. One of the things that she said recently, and this is a direct quote from her, which I found to be surprising, and I wanted to get your reaction. She was frustrated with some of the theorizing on who may have taken him and for what reason. And she said this, quote, "Maybe the best hypothesis is that aliens beamed him up to the mothership. However, no sightings of a mothership hovering above the Sandia Mountains have been reported." Obviously, very tongue-in-cheek during a very serious time. What's your reaction to that?
I was surprised that
Oh.
Susan Wilkerson
We got
said
Chad
that.
again. Let me see.
Susan's a former lieutenant colonel, or maybe still
Yeah,
a serving
Chad,
lieutenant
sorry,
colonel in the
get
US
this
Air
there.
Force and a
DJ,
former astronaut
pause this.
trainee.
Press
Yep,
one.
I
So
will.
she would
Let me see.
know.
Press
I mean, I don't
two.
know if she was as cleared as highly as her husband was.
All right.
I
Let's
know
see
a
if
lot
we
of
can
these
get-
people, most of them are men, when they talk
Okay. Chad, can you hear me?
Call
Hello.
from
Yeah, it's Chad. Sorry, we got disconnected there.
Oh, wow. That one got
Oh,
hung up.
no.
He's probably going to call back again in a second. I don't know what. Did you guys hear all that?
Yeah, he just said that he got disconnected.
Yeah. And then he got disconnected again. But he's from Ojai, California. And you know what Ojai is? You remember what TV show that's from, Jules?
Yes, the
Ooh.
Bionic Woman.
Woo!
and
The $6 million man.
Majors,
Lee
Lee
Majors.
Majors. Yeah,
Great job.
that's
Great
Ojai,
job.
man.
Yeah. That's the only. I'm like, wait, as a little kid, is that Ohio? Because I ain't never heard of Ohio. What are you talking about? Go ahead, BS. Show your. The audience hasn't seen you do it, so go ahead.
Do you want me to say the whole thing I say?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right.
Wait, let me-
DJ, me so tough. Brrr. No, I can't. Don't put me big screen. I'll do it right from here. Where did you kick Jules off to?
Oh wait. Okay, Jules. I was
Ah.
trying to take Ross. Oh, that was it. Okay, go ahead. Do it again.
I said, me, DJ, me so tough. Brrr. I joke around with him.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what Chad has to say.
All right.
Third time's the charm.
Hey, it's Chad here. Third time's a charm.
to accept, press 1.
Chad.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, brother. You are on the air. We have cleared the stage. Please enlighten us.
Yeah, no, so I was just gonna tell you a story about this one time I did see an alien. I'm in California right now. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Temecula area.
Yes, I am. It's east of Los Angeles, across the mountains, or east of
That's right.
kind of
So
like
I used to
SoCal.
work-
Yeah.
I used to actually work, and I would have to go through the mountains as a commute, which that was a whole other story. But there's this one night I remember. This one time. It was I think it was a fall night, if I remember correctly, September, and it was a triangular light formation, just Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the footage of the Phoenix Lights.
I have.
It was kind of like that. Now, the TR-3 is another example. Sorry.
Are there dirt bikes there, or is that a chainsaw? Hopefully you're not cutting anybody up that you would want to admit to.
I'm just sitting currently.
You're what?
You don't want to know, man.
Currently.
Oh, did he just say?
Okay.
He did.
Oh. Should we cut him off? Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll cut him off. Yeah, I don't know.
It sounded like it was going to be an interesting story.
Yeah, but then I heard some very
Yeah.
strange. Yeah, so you never know. When you open the phone lines, anything can happen. So we're not scared. We'll keep.
Yeah.
Sounds like stomach issues.
When nature calls.
All right. Yeah.
Try not to be on air.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you open the phone lines, I mean, we've had people harassing Nan. We've had all kinds of crazy people harassing Bia. I mean, it's crazy. So, but yeah, let's go back to Ashley, our colleague, Ashley Banfield, outstanding interviewer, outstanding journalist.
To their families, in order to protect their families, they keep secrets. They don't share with their wives. So it's very likely, I think, that she's completely unaware of what Neil was involved in, particularly with Lockheed Martin, fellow generals and John Podesta in the run-up to the 2016 election. I think she probably knows, because of the leaked emails, that he was in communication with the White House. Podesta, of course, was a former Obama senior policy advisor. Very, very highly connected Democrat with great connections at the highest levels of the Democratic Party. And what we're talking about here is something that she may not simply be aware of. I know.
Although if I'm aware of as much as I'm aware, clearly she would be, she'd be far more informed about this.
Well,
and I just also
can
wonder,
I-
just
can
his
I-
background alone, it just screams there's a possibility. Why would she be so anathema? Why would it be so anathema to her?
Well, look, I think nobody wants to think about the possibility that your husband may have been taken by someone unfriendly. At the moment, by the way, I should emphasise, there's been no official statement that Neil McCasland has been taken, abducted. Right. The official story at the moment is that he's perhaps in some way incapacitated and that he's got lost on a trail somewhere around the running trails of Albuquerque. Sure. I have to say, frankly, that makes no sense after 12, 13 days. Yeah. If he did go on a running trail, he would have been found by now. I've seen reports from Susan Wilkerson, his wife, that he left his watch at home, which is unusual for a runner. Most runners want to monitor their heart rate and their pace. It doesn't seem right. He also left his phone at home. And more importantly, she also couldn't account for what shoes he was allegedly wearing at the time. There's a lot of question marks, frankly, about the whole argument, the whole claim that he would have gone missing on a running trail. We don't know.
Hey, listen.
We don't know that he did.
Right, we don't. But I'll tell you what, on occasion I'm a runner, not often, but there is no way that I would go to a trail without a watch or a phone or some communication, especially if there's a trail that has a danger where there's a falling, risk. I just feel that anybody who's been around the block a few times, like me, and certainly at 68, I think, years old, he's been around the block, would ever do something that risky without some sort of location device or communication device. It just doesn't match the smell test.
Look, I agree with you. And look, I don't want to distress Susan Wilkerson. It must be terrible to be losing your loved one and wondering where the hell he is. And I sincerely hope that General McCasland is found soon. And frankly, I do hope that the simple explanation is that he just got lost or that there's been some medical misadventure. And I sincerely hope he's soon reunited with his family. Frankly, as each day goes by, I think we increasingly have to look at the possibility of foul play. And the fact that the FBI is now more overtly involved, that we've got people from Kirtland Air Force Base now engaged,
OSI,
and that the local sheriff is now talking about securing the video cameras from people's homes means that the search is now intensifying. They're now looking at alternative explanations as to what possibly happened. I've had people contact me in the security industry who knew General Neil McCasland, who tell me that they're not happy with the original status of the FBI investigation, that they felt that the FBI was doing a very, very half-hearted investigation. There was a lot of talk, for example, that there'd been no mobile phone alert posted. I mean, one of the first things you do when somebody goes missing is you put their face out on a mobile phone alert in the area, inviting anyone with a mobile phone to look at the photograph and see whether that person's been seen anywhere in the vicinity.
Silver alert, which they've done, right? They put out the silver alert. I don't know how long it took them.
No, I don't think there's been the full mobile phone alert. It's been raised. There has been a silver alert.
So I don't know that there's too much that's revelatory beyond that, because basically they're going to say they don't know, and they're going to talk about how connected that he was with UFO programs. So chat, if you would give us what your thoughts are on this disappearance and what you thought might have happened. And then we'll go on to our next story. Any further thoughts, Bia, from what you just heard? And although I know you're not running away from anything on the elliptical, you're tearing it up. So
I am. So no, it's sad. I mean, it sounds like they put out a silver alert, but not that, like, why not whatever everybody
Right
else
away.
would get and right away and to bring awareness. Yeah, that's just very strange. And that's the thing, when they do things that they typically wouldn't do for another person, that's when you're like, well, why is this? And that's what makes it all a little more shady. And because of how important he should be. So I feel like, yeah, that's just very bizarre.
Ruthie Robles says she thinks it's a setup. And Ruthie, are you basing that on what General McCasland knows, what he's been read into, etc.? And let us know. And let us know, any of you in the chat, like things that you think. Donnie Not Wahlberg from Washington says whoever he was meeting, he knew to leave his. Ooh, this is interesting.
That's a good point.
Do we know that he was meeting someone? Did he tell his wife?
No. Well,
No?
he left the house. He's not in the house, so he left. But the fact that he left his phone and watch when that's not typical of him to do, that's
Yeah,
a good. That's
And
a
if
good
he has an
angle.
Apple Watch, they'd be able to track that, especially if he
Right.
had one of those Apple Watches that it has the independent phone capability that you don't need to have your cell phone in proximity to use it. So, wow. Hi, Vic. Welcome. Vic has tickets for Triumph, so she wins the day. The reemergence of Triumph in Canada, which is a great 3-piece band. Jules, you look like you have something. Please go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. I wanted to point out that a woman, I don't remember her name, went missing in June that worked in the very same department that he was the head of. So that is ultra suspicious too. I wish I knew her name. I don't know it right now. It's not in my head. But someone that he worked with went missing in June. And now he's missing. So, that is super suspicious. And they don't really talk about any of it,
Hi, Dennis. Dennis is here. Dennis is always supporting no matter what the hell we're doing. So it looks like Sarah is agreeing with Ruthie's theory. Jules is saying this is the second person. And if this lady wasn't found, that is interesting. And so, but I think General
She hasn't been.
And General McCasland was not working. So that means that is really weird. So you're saying she worked with him when he was active duty and she went missing.
Wow. There's
plot-
no such
Yeah,
thing
that's
as a
that's how I
coincidence.
understand it.
The plot has thickened. Ruthie said, yes, I think he met up he met up to meet someone, or he went out to meet someone. How are you going to leave your phone and stuff nowadays? And he knows too much.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess, like I said, it seems like Sarah likes that theory.
Yeah.
We're getting highs for the legend Dennis Sweeney and Brenda Sweeney, because we don't know which Sweeney we have. And frankly, we don't care. We'll take either of the Sweeneys.
No, hello, Sweeney. Yeah.
Yep, we'll take Eddie Sweeney. I don't
Yeah, no
understand,
coincidence.
says Sarah Schockenhard. This isn't being discussed at a larger level. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, I don't know. I'm still 7.5 minutes behind. Okay, don't worry.
One and a
It's
half
okay.
speed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bia uses it all the time.
I use 2, but you know.
Yeah. Should we go on to the pyramids now? And if you have other commentary, if anybody wants to call in, I will put this at the bottom of the screen in 719-602-4464. And there it is. So if anybody wants to call in, we can take you. Please don't be going to the bathroom when you call in, at least audibly. The sound of the zipper and whatever else was happening there, and some extreme flatulation. So yeah. So there is that. Yeah. Please go to the bathroom by yourself. I have too many questions to have a real opinion. Other than the whole disappearance stinks. Yeah, it's very scary. You wonder if there's a bad actor. I don't know if General McCaslin is the right guy, because it depends on how intimately familiar he was with technology. What he would speak to, if there is a nation state that kidnapped him, he could speak to, and this is if he were tortured, because probably he went through POW type
You wouldn't.
training like I did. They would have to break him somehow. And if it would be kind of like how many craft we have, or what he knows in terms of kind of like overall 10,000 foot view aggregate type numbers. But I mean, obviously, if hasn't been working on a program in several years, he's not going to have the latest. So anyway, DJ, behave. I'm sorry, Terry. I know, but he's the one who did it. I mean, I'm the one doing a show here. I got to have some fun with it. Jeez. But no, I'm sorry. All right, let's go with, what's this? This is Shaylin Friends True Crime Chat. Oh, tell me about this, Shannon. Who are these folks? Let me know about who they are, because if they're friends of yours, if they're good, we'll either listen or we'll promo. Oh, you know what else I needed to do? I needed to play a song. So I might play some of the Jesse Michael stuff, and then I want to get y'all's reaction to that. So we're going to shift gears here. Can you put the clutch in, Julie? I don't want to shift without putting in the clutch. Okay? What are you talking about, DJ? Damn. Crazy.
Shifting down.
Shift down, shifting. There you go. Do you support Wade J?
Can we get rid of that, please?
Yes, I do. I do support what he did at the at the courthouse. I think that was good journalism. Okay, here we go. I'm bringing up Jay Brill. We're talking about the unexplained. Okay. What is this? At Sheila and Friends True. Did I miss this person? Who is that?
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. Oh, here it is. Hi.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Sheila and Friends True Crime Chat. Welcome. Okay, here we go. All right, we're gonna let me share, and then I had something to do here. Okay, I want to see what you guys think of this one. Let me make it full screen, and then we'll go. Okay, here we go.
This is the best technology that can scan inside of the Great Pyramid that are undiscovered features.
Do any of these structures that they're interpreting fly in the face of what conventional archaeology would think exists inside the pyramids?
All of it.
All of it.
All of it.
There is also electricity inside this.
Fossilized lightning through these iron veins. What is creating the lack of signature here?
There is something. I can't disclose it now.
Interesting.
Now,
Each pyramid is producing a specific chemical.
I'd like to couch this one really quick so you know who we're looking at there. That is our colleague right there. This guy's a degree in history, so he's sitting directly across from me. That is Jesse Michaels. He is the host of American Alchemy. He is top quality broadcaster. He was very, very successful in business and investing, and is a UFO head. He is not Bigfoot or any paranormal or anything like that, but he is one of the most well-read, knowledgeable people. And if Nathan were here, I think he would agree with this, Jules. Jesse is one of the most well-read, knowledgeable people that you are likely to meet in your lifetime. Of the breadth of books that he has read and things he knows that informs the history of UFOs from the beginning until now. So he has an Italian scientist who is on your left on the screen. He's sitting right next to Bia over there. She could nudge him with her elbow. There you go, that guy. And then there is an expert, a subject matter expert in Egyptology and the pyramids that is going to ask him questions. So we'll do the best we can with this. So we'll do what we can. Okay. Let me get rid of this, and here we go. Well,
and the sequence of these chemicals transforms one product into the next product into the next product. Industrial scale chemical manufacturing.
If we do have tubular structures, pillars, with coils wrapping around them that go a kilometer deep with a foundation underneath them, that's insane. That's huge.
Correct. Yeah, and it's something that needs to be addressed. Because there's no physical way that these could possibly have been built. Period.
Then I'm going with aliens. like how do we explain that? For over 4,000 years, the pyramids of Egypt have stood as some of the most extraordinary structures ever built by human hands. The Great Pyramid of Khufu on the Giza Plateau contains roughly 2.3 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 70 tons, arranged with a precision that still astonishes engineers today. The first and most obvious question everyone asks is how these insanely large, sophisticated, and astronomically aligned structures were built in ancient times, before modern civil engineering. Archaeologists and historians have proposed several main theories. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin suggests that an internal ramp spiraling within the pyramid structure itself carried the blocks. This is an idea that gained renewed interest after the Scan Pyramids project detected unexplained voids inside the Great Pyramid. Other proposals involve lever systems, counterweights, and complex lifting techniques hinted at by ancient historians like Herodotus. And then, of course, you have the Atlantean acoustic levitation crowd. Always a good time, and I can't hate on them. But the point is, all of these theories have serious issues with them and are incredibly speculative. And there's another, even more simple question we take for granted, and one that's probably even more interesting when it comes to the pyramids. Why were they built in the first place? The most widely accepted explanation is the royal tomb theory. Most Egyptologists believe the Great Pyramid was built for the pharaoh Khufu around 2500 BC as part of a massive funerary complex designed to help the king ascend to the afterlife. And the Pyramid of Khafra was of course built for the tomb of Pharaoh Khafra, Khufu's son. But no confirmed mummies or tombs of Khufu or Khafra have ever been found inside of the pyramids. And the interior chambers themselves are surprisingly bare. And so in the last few decades, some very alternative ideas have emerged for what the pyramid's true purpose may have been. One of the most famous of these comes from former aerospace engineer and Joe Rogan guest Christopher Dunn. Dunn proposed that the Great Pyramid might have functioned as an ancient energy machine. In his view, the pyramid's internal chambers, granite structures, and resonant geometry may have all worked together to generate power, possibly through vibrations interacting with quartz crystals inside the stone. Researcher Jeffrey Drum, who runs the amazing Land of Chem YouTube channel, believes the pyramids weren't producing electricity at all. They were harnessing atmospheric electricity and producing hydrogen gas and ammonium-based compounds essential for metalworking and agriculture. something ancient civilizations needed.
And my hypothesis for the function of the Great Pyramid is that the hydrogen sulfide gas coming from this subterranean karst cave and tunnel system is the initial reactant in the chemical manufacturing sequence within the Great Pyramid.
According to Drum, different chambers inside the pyramid could have served as reaction vessels, where chemicals like zinc and acid interacted, generating hydrogen through controlled reactions. These fascinating open questions, how and why the pyramids got built, became infinitely weirder in 2022. That's when a small team of researchers, led by Italian radar specialist Filippo Biondi and his engineering colleague Corrado Malanga, made one of the boldest claims in the last century involving ancient archaeology. Using a technique called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography applied to satellite data, they claim to have detected 8 enormous cylindrical tubular structures going beneath the Giza Plateau, possibly including large vertical shafts and chamber-like formations.
I just want to add for Terry and those of you in there, and if I'm not mistaken, I would encourage you to go to the YouTube called Uncharted X. He is obviously on X, and it's Uncharted X is his YouTube. His name is Ben Van Kerkwyk. He's one of the #1 guests I would want to have on Cab if I could have anybody. And those stones that you're looking at came from about a quarry about 500 miles from where they were set into this pyramid. Conventional wisdom says that manpower could not have moved them the way you just saw those, I don't know, 7 or 8 guys pulling that block up the ramp there. I mean, it's just, that's the thing. So 2 popular theories out there is that we had a greater technology and then the Younger Dryas happened. If you look at that and find out how many thousands of years ago the Younger Dryas was, that destroyed all technology, which is why there's no remnants. And then we started building up from fire all over again. Another one is obviously aliens. And I kind of like that theory because within the pyramids themselves, there are no depictions of the tools. They have not found any of the tools that they use to cut these stones with such precision. And if you were to Google the pillboxes at the Serapeum at Toshka, they are 100 ton. It looks like a coffin. Imagine a coffin made out of one piece of like diorite, a very, very hard stone that is perfectly square, that was 100-ton box cut from one piece of stone. So the lid is of the biggest ones are 30 tons and the box is 70 tons, leading to a 100-ton box. They cannot figure out, even today, companies have said we would cut 5 pieces and bolt them together. And then I've heard Ben Van Kerkwyk said you could physically do it today, but you'd be wearing out tools that you're using to drill them. You'd need a 5-axis tool in order to grind away the diorite. And you'd just be changing tools. It would be prohibitively expensive. So there are many things there in Egypt that we do not understand how they did it, because even today it would be a challenge.
And you know what's weird?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
please. No, please.
That they weren't building this for like a home. Like this wasn't for them to live in. The suggestion is from when somebody dies to help them get to where they were going. But it's strange that they didn't. Like, I'd love to understand at the time that this was being built, supposedly, how were they? What were their housing like? Did they like? Is this something similar to what they build for housing, or is this just something that they were just building for what purpose? Which they're implying it's for the tombs, but when somebody passed. But what was happening with the living?
I mean, that theory, I have also heard, Bia, that some of the historians and Egyptologists do not like that theory. And they don't like that. I want to say his name is Dr. Abad. I'm trying to remember. There is a chief scientist in Egypt. So in other words, he works for the ministry and he controls whatever happens and doesn't happen around on those pyramids. And they don't like that. They like that theory that they were ascendant to God. But I have heard some of the Aussies and Brits and Americans that speak about this, like Graham Hancock and Ben Van Kerkwick, and so that don't feel that that the history doesn't really support that they were built in order to help them ascend to God, because they don't find any evidence of a tomb inside, is what they're saying. So I don't know, like Khufu and Khafra. So let's keep
And
going.
why would they need to
and
build that power?
Good question. Go ahead, Jules.
And nobody truly knows how old they are. I mean, just
Right.
like the mounds that here in America, the Indians that live there now and were there when they were discovered by the white people, they say they were here when we came. And there's been testimony to the fact that the pyramids were there, before anybody can even remember. We don't know what they were used for. We can't possibly know what their homes were like back then. This is what survived whatever the heck happened. That's basically it. This is what survived whatever the heck happened.
Here's the other thing, Jules, is the pyramids that were made subsequent to these were ones that were made out of like mud bricks and literally fell apart. So that's why they think that there was a technology that the Younger Dryas took out, which I personally, I'm not saying it's not correct. I'm just saying it doesn't resonate with me. I think there was another non-human intelligence that assisted with this. Let's keep going and see what you guys think.
By and first let me say, by and large, the older they are, the more fantastic they are, and the more complicated and impossible to build. The ones that came later are the ones with the mud brick and things people have found. It's yeah. Okay, that's it.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
with you 100% on that. That's what the evidence shows.
Extending hundreds of meters below the pyramids themselves.
We are counting at the moment 4 plus 4 tubes that are descending underneath, and they are connecting the top, so the base of the pyramid, to something that is located at the bottom.
So tonight on American Alchemy, we are hosting a historic roundtable discussion between Jeffrey and none other than Filippo Biondi himself, the man who conducted the scans and created the method that derived the images of these large columns below the pyramids. The result was probably the deepest conversation that's ever been had on the structure and purpose of the pyramids, and the vast complex of subterranean structures that might lie beneath them. Modern disclosure might not involve modern technology, but rather ancient technology hidden in plain sight. Without further ado, probably the two best guests I could think of to explore the birthplace of alchemy itself, ancient Egypt. Please welcome this week's American alchemists, Jeffrey Drum and Filippo Biondi.
Ignition sequence start. How is this possible?
E-commerce. I'm here with Filippo Biondi, round 2 with him, and I have brought in an amazing co-interviewer, Jeffrey Drum, who I've become a recent big fan of.
Thanks, sir.
And I just can't wait enough for this conversation. I'm really excited to dive into this because Filippo, as we all know at this point, has, through synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography, he's a scientist, he's a data scientist, 30 years PhD, who with his own method, the Biondi method, has basically figured out through these tomography scans, he's derived what he says looks like these 8 4+4 tubular structures with coils wrapping around them underneath the pyramids, not only actually underneath the pyramids, underneath some other structures as well. So it's kind of a bombshell finding. Obviously, it is also a really amazing meme that like took off on the internet. And Jeffrey, more recently, I've become a huge fan of just
Thank you.
because he's so rigorous, and I don't know too many people who have a step-by-step thesis as to what the pyramids actually their function
Right.
is. You know, you're kind of in a league of your own. And so you know,
I appreciate that. That's a huge vote of confidence.
No,
Yeah,
I
thank
mean
you.
it. I mean, it's you and Christopher Dunn. And so
Sure.
I'm excited to have you here because I think you can ask Filippo questions that I cannot.
Yes.
I think I probably accept a lot of things at face value. And so I'm really excited to host this discussion.
Yeah.
And thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your invitation.
So as far as kicking things off, why don't we just go over the core findings just for the audience as kind of context? So what are we talking about here when it comes to these synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography scans? And if you could go into the method as specifically as possible, that would be very helpful.
Yes, the method is relatively new and not so, let's say, diffused by the other colleagues, colleagues of mine. But someone I know that is replicating the experiment, so I am very happy about this. Essentially, I worked a lot of years, maybe 30 years on radar and 20 years on radars installed on satellites. Synthetic aperture radar is an equipment that synthesizes a so-called integration time along the orbit in order to have azimuth resolution, very high azimuth resolution. So it is very important for civilian application and other applications. Today is state of the art because it recasts also on in the commercial activities, because there are all companies that American companies and also European companies that are building their own satellites. They launch the satellites in the sky, in the space. I'm sorry, and they sell data. So
and this is kind of going to get into a little bit of technical stuff that I think isn't really necessary to tell the story. So I'm going to try to scrub forward. But what I can tell you guys is that satellites, they don't just go around in an equilateral orbit around the Earth. There kind of will be an arc where they'll speed up. I don't know if that's apogee or perigee. And then when they get close to the area they want to scan, they'll naturally slow down and lose some of their momentum and come around the Earth. So those things are all programmed. So when they have something that they want to look at, like a pyramid, they'll set up the orbit so that it's going fast when it's furthest away. And as it gets closer, it'll slow down, and then it'll scan over top of that item that they want to look at. And I think he's going to tell you here, they were only able to scan this pyramid due to the other things that they had that radar looking at every 16 days. It orbited over and took an image over these pyramids that they're looking at. So let me see where we're at here. See if we're at something.
Example, we've actually taken samples of the water in the Osiris shaft, and I had that tested in conjunction with an archaeological project that I'm a member of called the Osirion 7 Archaeological Mission, in conjunction with Jim Westerman, to investigate the source of the water within the Osirion. So they're doing testing of the water in the Osirion and hydrological evaluation of the Osirion to try to determine why and where the water in the reservoir comes from. And there's also intrusive water in one of the central recesses that we're also trying to determine the source of this water. I'm an official member of that archaeological project, and I brought our water samples from the Osiris shaft to have tested in conjunction with the samples from them. And the Osiris shaft is brackish water. It's not fresh water. And it's not seawater, it's brackish water.
Okay.
So brackish water is slightly salty water, not fresh water, not seawater.
in Italian it's called the salmastra.
Yeah. So
Salmastra.
partially salt water.
Yeah.
So there's a very independent aquifer located directly below the Osiris shaft that is not connected to the Nile River. So for example, the Nile is way, way back from the Giza Plateau. And because of the high Aswan Dam, there's no more flooding of the Nile River. So the water level inside of the Osiris shaft has not fluctuated since the and to tap into that aquifer at a very specific level at the bottom of the chamber, which is why the chamber is still filled with water at the bottom of the Osiris shaft today. So there's pockets of independent aquifers all over the Giza Plateau, and there's also subterranean flowing water, which
so there is also subterranean
moving water.
moving water.
Yeah. So there's actually pumps
Okay.
that have been installed near the Valley Temple. So the Khafra Valley Temple near the Sphinx enclosure, the Egyptian government has installed pumps to try and pump this water out from below the Giza Plateau. So there's pumping stations at Giza where they've been pumping out this water from below the Giza Plateau, which is, there's a reason they're doing that.
Back in the day, I used to chug coffee like I was prepping for a quantum jump. But then I'd crash like my nervous system got slingshotted through a kaleidoscope. Anxiety spiking, aura flickering, and
on that, right?
Yeah.
So we all agree on that. We all agree that the pyramids were likely not conventional tombs. Right.
Yeah.
So like, we're all like same page there. And then it sounds like we're on the same page that water is this important thing, whether it's chemical power plant or, energy power plant. But yeah, what are you saying?
And we are sure also that they were not built by the Egyptians.
That would be my bias. What do you think?
What do you think?
So built by the Egyptians, I think they were built by the civilization that lived in Egypt during a period known as the Saharan humid period, which is from 8500 BC to around 5300 BC.
Which well predates what Zahi Hawass and like the Ministry of Culture would say.
And during that time period, the Upper Eastern Sahara was being transformed from a desert into.
So Zahi Hawass is that chief doctor, PhD. He's Egyptian by birth, and he has the ear of the ministry, and he's the one that'll tell you that the pyramids are 2500. That were built in 2500 BC, and these guys are telling you different.
To a vast area of farmland by sweeping monsoon rains. So there was tons of rain, there was tons of water, there were tons of thunderstorms, which is also directly connected to my hypothesis on the function of the pyramid structures. Directly connected to thunderstorms and lightning, which we'll get to the power source of the pyramids and why these subterranean structures might be important for capturing and recirculating that electrical current.
And you have what seems to be water damage and erosion on the nose of the Sphinx that people like John Anthony West talk about.
Yeah, the back of the Sphinx enclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, the water water erosion at the back of the Sphinx enclosure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the work of Robert Schock that looks at those vertical fissures on the back of the Sphinx enclosure, which is indicative that the structure was built during a time period where there was significantly more rainfall.
Right.
So I think it was built by the Egyptians by virtue of it being the people that were in Egypt at the time, which predates. So I do think it was. So I'm not in the alien camp where I think that these are extraterrestrial. I think they were built by human beings at the end of the last ice age in order to reestablish and rebuild humanity after the largest cataclysm that basically destroyed most of the planet and put human beings at risk for extinction.
Yeah, I mean,
so they're infrastructure projects.
You mentioned Robert Schock.
Yeah.
He and Graham Hancock would say that the Sphinx itself is actually an homage to, the former procession.
Sure.
And that, the constellation Leo, which was, facing true north, was what it was, pointing towards, and that the pharaonic, headdress is actually sort of retrofitted onto it. Would you agree with that? Or?
So I think the Sphinx itself is a dynastic monument that was built on an existing bedrock outcrop within the Sphinx enclosure.
Okay. So similar to.
So I just want to point out, because someone in the audience said earlier that they think it was built by humans, and I think this is a great thing, is that we don't know, and that could be true. I think it was Val Helloss said right here. Option 3, modern researchers are too arrogant to accept that these primitives figured out something they can't. So I think right there, that gentleman, I think he aligns with what you've said. So there's a lot of hypotheses out there, and there is no one that's necessarily better than the other. This one's pretty good. I want to go to Uncharted X real quick. Bia, is it okay if I go to that? Because that one, okay.
Of course.
And then
You
we'll
don't
get
need
that.
my permission.
Yeah, but come on, you're Massachusetts Bia. Let's go. Okay. Rolls right off the
G'day
tongue.
and welcome to Reality Check. Before we start this week's show, here's a little bit about our sponsor for this week's show. It's amazing to be here in the Valley of the Kings, which is where many of the pharaohs were buried in secret, with a huge number of the incredible treasures, the things that Howard Carter described when he found the tomb of Tutankhamun as wonderful things. But there's a mystery, there's a conundrum behind that whole story. Who on earth made these incredible technologies, these fine stone vases, the beautiful carved statuary, the incredibly well-honed granite blocks that are accurate, sometimes within micromillimeters? How do we explain those technologies with what we understand were the tools of that era? The pre-dynastic Egyptian civilizations, if they were lucky at all, had copper chisels. More likely, they had flints and stone adzes. Then how do we explain the beautiful objects, the wonderful things that Howard Carter described when he opened the tomb of Tutankhamun? That's what we're bringing Ben Van Kerkwijk on to Reality Check this week to talk about. Ben's been studying ancient Egypt and the relics of ancient Egypt for a very long time, and he has a fascinating story to tell. Join me on this week's Reality Check with Ben Van Kerkwijk. Ben Van Kerkwijk, welcome to Reality Check.
Ross, thank you very much for the introduction. That's very kind. And likewise, I will say I'm also have been a fan of your work for quite some time, and it's a real honor
Two
to be
Aussies.
here.
Where's Ruby right
Well,
now?
mate, we love the idea of causing mischief with doctrinaire dogmaticism. And one of the things I love about Uncharted X is you take us down paths with fastidious detail and analysis. And I find if I read online, you're often debunked by doctrinaire archaeology and dismissed out of hand. And frankly, there's not a lot of logic behind how they're so dismissive. I think one of the things I like to do on Reality Check is bring people face to face with obvious mysteries. Just like the UAP mystery, it's in plain sight. And the evidence that I see that you're citing it's in plain sight. It's right under our noses. So, mate, very quickly, before we get into ancient Egypt, give me the orthodox model of human history. Tell me when human civilization is meant to have begun.
Well, you're quite right when you talk about the.
So this is very important. I want everybody in the chat to pay very close attention to what Ben says, because this kind of sets everything up that's going to come after.
The doctrine and the dismissal of perspectives that are alternative or that have an alternate timeline, or they are suggesting alternate perspectives on our ancient history. And in fact, our perspective on human civilization and the history of it really hasn't changed very much over the last 150 years. It's one of those things that stayed fairly static. The Orthodox timeline suggests that civilization really started only some 6,000 years ago. And this is, of course, the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia, ancient, that part of the world. That was the Babylonians and Mesopotamians started what we call civilization, then closely followed by the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Chinese, etc. Only some, 4,000 BC, 6,000 years ago, which has led us to a path of, I guess, our modern civilization today. That doctrine, which is what it is, has been increasingly challenged by new discoveries across many different scientific fields, as well as discoveries from within archaeology itself. And unfortunately, for one reason or another, it really hasn't affected I guess, the mainstream position of civilization itself. One of the things that I like to point to is having shifted dramatically during this period where we've thought civilization is 6,000 years ago, is the extension of the human timeline itself. So for a long time, if you go back far enough before the age of reason, the age of science, you have the biblical interpretation of the human species, 6,000 years. The rise of science starts, and then the estimates get up to, well, maybe we're 50,000 years old as a species. Then we create techniques like, radiocarbon dating, C14 dating. They find some human remains in Ethiopia. And for many decades, they were dated to around 195,000 years old. So that was said to have been the oldest human remains here. Go ahead.
I want to cite one example that really leapt out at me when I watched one of your videos. You talk about a burial site at a place called Toshka, and it's quite phenomenal because there's a corpse lying in a prone position in a fairly primitive grave, but there's something in that grave that really made me sit up because the carbon-14 dating on...
So real quickly, that vase that was found with this human remains, and they're going to do the carbon dating on the human, and the vase was made with a space industry level of precision for its circularity, for its flatness, and they don't understand how this vase could have been made without a modern 5 degree of freedom kind of a tool, lathe, etc. So I just want to set that up for you guys.
What's in that grave suggests that it's 14,500 years old. What was found in that grave, Ben?
So Toshka is one of many sites that is in the southern area of Egypt, sort of northern Sudan, southern Egypt. And these are essentially Neolithic burials. So, as you say, like in that 14,500 year time frame. But one of the biggest mysteries, and Toshka certainly isn't the only one. There are many, many other sites like this. But in that grave, in this shallow grave with a fetal position corpse, they're finding very primitive pottery, bone and bead ornaments, but also they found these remarkable hard stone vases or vessels, and they're made from incredibly hard stones, granite, diorite, and they seem to have been made with just remarkable precision. They're these, what I'd like to call kind of an out of place artifact that really.
Now, this is what I love, because this is the sort of stuff you're citing as evidence of a potential prior human civilization that as yet doesn't fit onto our timeline. Because when you're talking about precision vases, let's talk about how precise these vases are, because this is where I was watching your Uncharted X and I almost fell off my chair and I started tweeting in support of you saying, gosh, this is incredible. People have got to watch this. And I wasn't ready for the barrage of insults that you cop from contemporary archaeology. It's just amazing.
Yes.
And as you may have noticed with me, I really enjoy upsetting some people who have very doctrinaire positions on things. And there was no explanation from any of them as to how these precision vases could have been made. But let's firstly, with the Toshka site that you're talking about, there's no doubt that these precision vases were recovered from this site, that they're not something that was inserted later on.
Well, no, because these sites, there's actually not a lot of records of these excavations for a number of reasons. These happened in the 1960s. Boston University and Harvard were doing the work down on this side, and many others in that I guess that Neolithic period. And all of those sites today are underwater. They were all excavated prior to the building of the the Great Dam in Egypt on the Nile, and the creation of Lake Nasser, which is the largest man-made lake in the world now. But so they're all underwater. So we have to go on these photographs and these older records of these finds, but it's not controversial whatsoever to classify these precision hardstone vessels and vases as being pre-dynastic, so before the dynastic Egyptian civilization, because not only do we find them in these sites that date back potentially as far back as 15,000 years, we find them in other cultures that predate the Egyptian cultures like the Nakata culture and the Nakata II culture, and then right up to the very early parts of the dynastic Egyptian civilization itself.
So how precise
this is where we
are
find
they
these
then?
vessels.
How
Well-
precise are the vases that were found, for example, in that burial site?
Antarctica.
So it's long been a mystery. People have always wondered about this, but it's only been in recent, really the last couple of years, that we've been able to get our hands on some of these vessels and do proper analysis on them using things like, structured light scanning or CT X-ray scanning and modern metrology. The examples that we've looked at have proven to be just remarkably precise is the best term I can give you. So if you want to talk about how precise, you're talking about aerospace industry levels of precision, where you're working in single thousandths of an inch. And for the metric viewers out there, we're talking about, 25 to 30 or 40 microns, which is, a thousandth of a millimeter. And when you're working in those...
What's that in relation to, say, a human hair?
So a human hair is between, I think, 2 to 3 thousandths of an inch thick. So you might be talking like 50 to 75 microns. So it's less than the thickness of a human hair. And this is the margin of error that we're seeing on some of these vessels. If you want a really insane example, the best example of precision in terms of circularity on one of these vessels that was recently analyzed, the difference between on the X and Y radius, so the top of the vessel as you measure it in one direction relative to another, the error of margin that we found there was 4/10,000ths of a millimeter, so 4/10ths of a single micron. That's probably the best example that we found.
Okay, 4/10,000th, 4/10, I can't even say it, 4/10,000ths of a millimeter in circularity. That is like, how do you achieve that with a hammer and a chisel? Like, that's not happening. That's not happening. So this is like really, really crazy stuff that we're dealing with here. Please continue, Mr. Van Kerkwijk.
Which is absolutely mind-bending precision.
So forgive me for interrupting there, but just so our audience understand, when you're talking about the margin of error, you're talking about the accuracy of the thickness of the stone, solid stone. It's diorite. In some cases, it's granite. And it's been cut to a thickness which is absurdly thin, and there's a consistency of that thickness.
Right. So there's a lot of different ways to measure precision and accuracy on these vessels and these objects. So circularity, roundness, consistency of the material. When I'm talking about precision, it's like how accurately is it made relative to other surfaces. So the center line of the vase, like how accurate are the edges of the vase to it? How round is the top of it? That type of thing. And that's where we're getting these remarkable measurements from. So perfectly circular to within 4/10,000ths of a millimeter. In terms of wall thickness, that's another aspect of the remarkable engineering and machining that's gone into these, because you do have materials like granite, like diorite, porphyry, schist, these other very hard types of stone. Not only are they down to, like a 40th of an inch, so, less than a millimeter thick in some places, these materials are brittle at that. It's like glass, a cube of glass is very strong, but if you get it down very thin, it's the same material, it's hard, but it's very brittle. And that's the same case for stones like this. It's made even more difficult by the fact that many of these stones have large crystal inclusions in them. So the material goes from hard to soft as it's being worked. But whoever made these things, had the ability to machine them down to just very, very thin tolerances indeed, and keep it consistent. And it would be, put it this way, it would be an incredible challenge for us to replicate these sort of things today, even with our best machines and tools. And as of yet, we haven't really done it.
Now, I think the Toshka example leapt out at me because it was just so absurd. I mean, that's a grave that's 14,500 years old. I mean, indeed, that's incredible.
So
yes, there are many others like it, like in that region of Toshka, and it doesn't match up when you compare it.
Predates civilization by what they're thinking, like by 8,000 years of what they assert is like the Fertile Crescent, like where Iraq is now, Mesopotamia, and so forth. So, okay, let me continue.
Or you look at it within the capabilities of that civilization, which was obviously a fairly primitive civilization, shallow grave, bone and bead ornaments, and very primitive pottery, like handmade pottery, nothing even turned on a wheel. So these are these out of place artifacts. And I think that another explanation for them, and one that makes a lot more sense when you consider the evidence, is the idea of inheritance. If you are a Stone Age people and you're in the business of making pottery vessels, if you found a stone vessel, like you're probably using stone tools, but if you found this stone vessel that's just perfectly made and remarkable, it's going to intrinsically become valuable. And that vessel's probably going to, propagate through the social structure. It's going to be buried with the chieftain or the king at the time. And that's where we find them. And the same process seems to have gone on in those cultures preceding the dynastic Egyptians, and indeed to the dynastic Egyptians themselves. One of the biggest mysteries I find about the vases, and one that shines a light on a lot of the contradictions when it comes to ancient Egypt, is the fact that we do find these vessels in the ancient Egyptian civilization, but only at the very start of it. So 3rd, 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom, they found 50, 60,000 of these things buried beneath pyramids. And even the archaeologists admit that these are inherited heirlooms. They know they came from earlier times, and that the Egyptian kings of the time buried them with them. And after that period, they really just disappear from that civilization. It's like they didn't have the capability to make them
anymore. Yeah.
Can I ask you this, Ben? What is the view, if you to articulate the view of modern archaeology, mainstream archaeology, what do they say about this notion of a prior human civilization that predates, for example, dynastic Egypt?
Well, they do know there were cultures, not so much civilizations. There were primitive cultures like Nakata, but they just suggest that all of the reports of it are myth and legend. I mean, one of the other major contradictions is the dynastic Egyptians themselves do have their own history. They trace back their own culture and civilization nearly 40,000 years. They have a king's list, and there's a number of different reports of this, and they go back to other periods, as do many other cultures. They have cataclysm stories and flood stories, and they talk about advanced civilizations, their ancestors with amazing capabilities, somehow being destroyed by cataclysm and starting again. But modern archaeologists and historians generally just dismiss that as myth and legend, and they say, well, no, the real history starts with Nama, the first king of the first dynasty, and that's when the civilization starts. They just classify everything else as myth and legend.
So let's talk about the accepted orthodox model of human history. One of the stories you've done, you talked about a 2006 New Scientist article that presented a timeline of human evolution. And officially, humans emerged, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is still the case in orthodox evolutionary theory. Humans emerged around about 195, 200,000 years ago. And the carbon 14 dating of the oldest modern human remains starts from around about 200,000 years ago.
That was the case in 2006, yes.
So what do we know now?
Well, so the story has changed since then. It's a good example of how new discoveries can change the story of our own species and history. So since then, since 2006, they've actually they made another discovery in I think Morocco. They found a jawbone of a human, and this was dated to slightly beyond, I think, 300,000 years. So instantly, it's like the human species just got a whole third of that time longer. We added another 100.
I don't know, but I think those teeth are looking pretty good. Jules, Bia, right? For 300,000 years? Maybe
they look better than mine.
Yeah, maybe we've gone backwards in dentistry.
Yikes. Wow.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
1,000 years to the human timeline. And these discoveries and these advances in science have progressed even further than that. And today that remains the oldest human record in the fossil record. But now we've got studies that look at things like DNA evidence when, Neanderthals, which genetically speaking are our cousins, when we and Neanderthals evolved from a common ancestor, that date is somewhere in the realm of 800 to 900,000 years. Similarly, there have been studies done on teeth morphology. So how do we have the teeth that we have, and at what rates would dental evolution need to happen for us to get sort of the
Bia, there's no caps, there's no crowns there, no Invisalign.
I know.
No whitening. I mean, come on. What the hell are we doing wrong here? I want to forward to where he gets to. Is it okay, maybe it's this.
It's at least 12,000 years old. And just to give the audience an account of it, it's got what we believe are astronomically aligned stones, possibly a celestial calendar, stone circles arranged geometrically. How does that obvious construction, and it's an elaborate construction, fit into the notion that civilization happened many thousands of years later?
Well, if you want to look at the orthodox or the mainstream perspective on Göbekli Tepe, and you can find this today, even if you go look at the Wikipedia page for it. Not that Wikipedia is a tremendously reliable source when it comes to controversial topics, but they will tell you that this was something built by hunter-gatherers. So rather than changing the date of civilization, they literally changed the definition of hunter-gatherers to, well, okay, they're not just nomadic tribes people, but now they're also guys that, they seem to enjoy doing a bit of megalithic pillar building on the weekends, maybe to get away from the wife and kids or something like that. I'm not sure.
Okay, so let's go through that. Let's deal with that. What's your response to that? I mean, my understanding is some of these pillars at Göbekli Tepe, the T-shaped pillars, they're hundreds of tons.
Well, no, they're not that big. It is a significant logistical challenge. Some of these, you're talking 20 feet tall, 20 to 30 tons, single piece stones, arranged very elaborately. They, in some cases, taken significant distance, like many miles from the quarries from where they were formed. The interesting thing about Göbekli Tepe, there are many things. This is a brand new discovery. It was really uncovered by a German archaeologist in the 1990s, and it's been excavated ever since. It's a site that has a lot of nuance to it. So the carbon dating that we have for that, where it's incontrovertibly 12,000 years old at least, we actually get those dates not from the pillars, but from these cobblestone walls that are enclosing these pillars. And there's strong evidence, and anyone that goes there would be able to see this for themselves. It's as if that site was rebuilt, like these primitive walls that surround these pillars and these stone circles. They were built to kind of repair and prop up these pillars. In some cases, there are actually broken pieces of pillars in these walls. And it's from those primitive walls that we get this date of 12,000 years old.
So do you think Göbekli Tepe might actually be a bit older?
I do, yes. I think that's it, probably significantly older. I think that there were people that came to this site that found it, or they knew about it, and they rebuilt that site. They protected it. In fact, the walls encompass the pillars. They cover up some of the details. And as I said, there's actually broken pieces of pillar, as if those pillars had already fallen and broken when they built these walls. And we date it based on the organic material found in these cobblestone, these rough cobblestone walls that surround it. There's clearly two different styles of architecture here as well. Like one is a megalithic style with these massive single piece pillars with intricate high relief carvings on them that have these astronomical alignments and all sorts of significance. Martin Sweatman has written an entire book on this topic. It's fascinating. And then you have this primitive cobblestone walls that came along and were built.
Why are these?
Okay, so real quickly, that right there is talking about Göbekli Tepe, which is in Turkey, like they said, discovered by a German archaeologist in the 90s. And it in itself is it's a whole discussion. So I wanted to go to these boxes just to blow your mind a little bit before we go off air, and then get a little bit of discussion between us and you all. So let me go to this real quick. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Involved, and the evidence is there for anyone that wants to go and look at it. You can form. So that's 500 times greater than what our tools can do today. And that's a real mystery. Like it's of the power of the tool. You end up with this nice polished surface. Actually, you can, as you might imagine, you're just really rubbing on this thing with sand, and it's just slowly grinding away the copper too at the same rate. And it really wears those tools out. So yes, you can use primitive methods to grind away at granite, but it just looks, the problem I have with it is that it looks nothing like what we see in Egypt, which is we see evidence for some sort of extremely powerful tool, potentially using a technology that we don't possess or that we don't use, things like maybe ultrasonics or thermal technologies or something. Because again, even with our most powerful tools that spin really fast and they can cut the material, it's just not penetrating the stone at the same rate. The tools and the cut lines in Egypt show that drill could penetrate through the stone 500 times at a 500 times greater rate than what we can do with our modern tools today. So it might have been going slowly. I mean, Petrie documented this, right? He said it's a 1 in 60. So if you unwind that tool mark, that circular tool mark in a straight line, So for 60 inches of horizontal travel, it's penetrating 1 inch of vertical travel in a circular form. So that's 500 times greater than what our tools can do today. And that's a real mystery. Like, it's very difficult to explain.
So, I
And
mean,
the marks are there.
The obvious evidence there is right in your face. There was clearly some kind of advanced civilization that we don't know about that was using mechanized tools.
Yeah, and of what form that took, I don't know. We've never found the tools. Like, that's always, and it's a legitimate question that comes up. So where are the tools? We don't know. We have the evidence for the tools, we have the marks from the tools, but we haven't found the tools. I mean, not for nothing, and it's a whataboutism, but even the mainstream explanation of saying, well, it was a copper tube and they used sand, they've also never found a single copper tube from ancient Egypt. So there's the where are the tools question applies equally well to the mainstream explanation. However, the result of those tools, and we've done the experiments with it, it just doesn't look like anything like what we see in ancient Egypt. There was a different tool involved, and the evidence is there for anyone that wants to go and look at it. You can look at the whole
of discoveries at a place called Saqqara, these Serapeum boxes. Why are these Serapeum boxes so incredible?
It's probably my favorite site is the Serapeum of Saqqara. This is an astonishing site, and if you ever find yourself visiting Egypt and visiting Saqqara, which is a vast necropolis, the step pyramid of Saqqara, you can spend days and days and days at Saqqara. I would not miss the Serapeum. It's an underground labyrinth of these massive galleries and chambers. That's all rock cut. It's cut into the bedrock. It wasn't constructed, like the roof is bedrock, so it's a tunnel system. But inside this, these massive galleries and chambers, you will find 25 of the most remarkable artifacts I've ever seen. And these are single-piece stone boxes, for want of a better term. The mainstream calls them
hard stone
sarcophagi.
too.
Very hard stone. Yeah, granite, diorite, syenite, all sorts of types of incredibly hard stone. But what's amazing about the Serapeum is just the sheer scale of them. These things weigh, with their lids, up to around 100 tons. So the body of the box itself is 70 tons, and the lid might be 30. And there's 25 of them down there. Like, it's for some reason, and they've been moved in there, and they're shaped and made with, in some cases, just remarkable precision, like perfect 90-degree corners, flat surfaces and planes. It's a remarkable engineering achievement to manufacture one of these boxes. And
just to underline this, obviously we could do it, but what would it take today to cut that granite and that diorite in the way that you see in those Serapeum boxes at Saqqara?
So the question has been asked. A good friend of mine and the author of several books, Christopher Dunn, had asked a granite manufacturing company, like, could you make one of these boxes? And they said, yes. I mean, the cost would be astronomical just to get the raw piece of granite. And the only way they could do it, though, would be to basically cut 5 slabs and bolt it together, which is not what we see in the Serapeum. These are single-piece stone boxes.
Piece of stone.
They're not slabs that are bolted together. They've been hollowed out. For us to do this today, I mean, you're talking millions of dollars probably for the rough piece of granite. Try moving a 100-ton load over any road as well. Like, you need all sorts of permits. It's extremely difficult and expensive to move that sort of load around. And then we would have to create custom tools to actually cut that stone out, and it would just be prohibitively expensive to do. Can it be done, and do we have the technology to do it? Yes, but it would take everything we've got, and then forget about trying to move these things into an underground chamber, because at some point somebody did this, like 25 times. They moved 100-ton boxes into an underground labyrinth, in some cases with less than a foot of clearance. The biggest boxes only fit through the passages by about a foot. Like, that's the clearance you've got. You've got to turn the corner, and then these boxes are put into these alcoves they're perfectly centered in these alcoves that exist off this giant, massive gallery that's so big you could, drive a Volkswagen down it. But they put into these alcoves. They're lowered down about 6 feet and put in the exact center of these alcoves, and they're kind of parked there. And that's where we find them today. I mean, honestly, the only reason they're not in the museum is because we can't get them out of there.
You mentioned Chris Dunn, and I love something.
So we'll let it go from there. So somebody, I just starred one of them here. Okay, so here's the issue with that, Rose. If you're going to have a tool that's that hard that it can cut metal, cut diorite or cyanite or granite, then destroying it, first of all, how did you make the tool? And how do you destroy something like that? It's not like you're going to shoot bows and arrows and destroy it. So it remains. You know, are you going to blow it up? I mean, now you're talking about explosives, you know, that is, 18,000 years ago or whenever they built these things. So how do you destroy something that's that hard? Now, what's the sort of corollary? All right, we're still finding arrowheads, Indian arrowheads from First Nations.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So you're
there's still flint arrowheads everywhere. And that's flint.
And so they haven't, I don't think they could destroy the tools. The tools would remain somewhere, but we don't know how they made it even today. And there's something else about those vases I wanted to point out that we didn't get to earlier. With the vase being, 1/40,000th of a millimeter in circularity and all these things, it has little handles on the end. So even today, if we were to put this on a lathe and spin it, how do you get the handles on there? Because they would have to cut where those handles are, and then
they'd be gone.
But they made it with one piece of stone. So how did they do that? Because again, that's something we can't do today, because you would need some sort of a tool that would have, 6 degrees of freedom that could go all around to try to cut that. Now, the other thing is what he talks about in there. When you have a machinist tool, you may have something that's spinning something, but there's something with a sharp edge that's cutting. And as that wears out, you have to move that away from what you're cutting. You have to unconnect it, remove that tool, and stick a new sharp one in there, and then realign it to what you're. So there's a certain amount of sort of tool wear that's involved in that, because every time you move the tools away from what you're working on, you lose some of that accuracy. Every time you change a tool, because there's always going to be some error. And that's what makes this so incredible. These boxes are not aerospace grade, but there is a photo you can find on the internet where they take a T-square and put it up to that box, and it looks perfectly square. We don't know how we would get them in there. We can't get them out of there. That's the reason why they're still there, or he said they'd be in a museum. So anyway, what else do we have? We had somebody else here that had something. Ruthie Robles says, how many things were swallowed up by the desert and how many artifacts? Well, here's the thing about that. We are still, they found these underground caverns. They have found underground tombs, but they have not found any tools. So is it possible? Yes. But certainly conventional science saying that they used sand and copper tubes to cut those. Yeah, I'm not buying that. And definitely not to aerospace grade tolerances. So I don't know. Very what do you guys think? Take it away.
Well, I was thinking, like, if you've ever had, granite put in your house, what it takes for them to, you first have to go out and do it like a template. They have to come out and do a template because it's obviously precision. Excuse me, I can't talk. It's cut by like a laser. Like, so I was thinking about just like in today's age, just what it takes to get a granite made for your kitchen. So, yeah, like that's incredible. The amount of, it's crazy. It's, I was thinking maybe they buried the tools too. But I don't know. Like everything is,
it's a mystery.
A mystery.
Yeah, we found all these different artifacts. Obviously, they're digging them up and finding them, but we don't know where the tools are that made them.
Right.
And
or
we don't
the
know
machinery or whatever it took, because that didn't exist back then. So,
right.
And when you're asking somebody today, how you can replicate this and you can't, like, much more advances we have now than back then. So it's very mysterious for sure.
And it's one thing, like Jules, to shape granite. It's another thing to take a big piece of granite and hollow it out. Can you imagine how many tools, like diamond tip type tools, you would go through trying to hollow out a piece of granite that weighs 100 tons? Because hollowing it out is so much harder than just cutting it. You know what I mean? It's like, go ahead, Jules. What do you got, my friend?
Yeah. Well, the closest thing in time to us that is even somewhat comparable and pales to the pyramids is Coral Castle at Lead Skalman. And you know, they thought that he made, that no one knows how he did it. One man alone, tons and tons of coral that he carved and made a doorway that pivoted, you know, and spun like on a single point with just the touch of a finger. You know, no one can figure out how this man did this, but he claimed to have known the secret of the pyramids. And some young kids back in the day saw him moving things one day with things that looked like ice cream cones. They said he was doing it with ice cream cones. And then they have found, like in Africa with Michael Tellinger and stuff, cone-shaped tools that they think were used in the faraway time. But we just don't know anything, basically, when you get down to it. And the people who do find out, like Ed Lee Skalman, they go to their grave with it. You know? So I don't know how we're supposed to figure it out.
Yeah, this is what Jules is talking about right here. Jules is talking about this, that door is still there, that Ed, I can't remember his name, but this is in Homestead, Florida. For those
Lead
of you
Skalman. It's Lead Skalman.
Lead Skalman or something. Yeah, he's an immigrant.
Yeah, it's hard.
He's from another country, but that is what he created, and he would not work when anybody could watch him, and he did all of this, I believe, without any mechanized tools, by himself. So yeah, it's really freaky. Here's another kind of.
And he did it. He did it in one place and moved it to another, all by himself, because it wasn't originally built in the place it's in now. He moved it.
This is freaky,
and no one knows how.
Yeah.
You know?
There it is right there. Yeah, nobody knows how he moved those stones that were so heavy. We think that he kind of set up little fake, like he set up like a tripod with like 4 it was like 3 or 4 not very thick what am I thinking of, like kind of like
winches and things,
branches, right? And then he had something hanging down that looked like a little hoist, and it's like, yeah, man, so
I think that was a ruse too. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
No, I think he did very well to make people think that.
That was like I think that was in the 1950s when all that was going on with him in Florida. And so that's not too remote in time, but yet we still don't know how to do it. You know, he did, but he didn't tell anybody.
No, it says right here, it was done in 1923 in Miami, Florida.
Okay, he might have died in the 50s or something.
Okay, and we can just share this real quick for Ed. And then I have one more thing I can share with you guys. I think it's this. No, it is. Is it this? Yeah, that right there. Okay. So Coral Castle, one small man, Ed Lead Skalman, single-handedly built a massive stone fortress with 1,100 tons of coral using methods that defy modern explanation, leading to theories involving secret knowledge of magnetism, ancient Egyptian techniques, sound, levitation, psychic powers, alien help, ley lines, but simple, ingenious, loose use of leverage and simple tools. He claimed to have discovered secrets of magnetism and weight, building at night and leaving behind enigmatic structures like a 9-ton gate that moves with the touch, baffling engineers and visitors for decades. petite man, under 100 pounds himself, moved and carved huge blocks of fossilized coral, some weighing over 30 tons alone. Never fully revealed his methods, only hinting at what he knew, gravity-defying features. So it's really cool. Like you said, this is something that you could go visit today. Yeah, this is something you could go see without having to go to Egypt, because somebody here was saying, I want to see this, but I don't want to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
Val says, what if they threw the tolls in the ocean? Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, people were kind of surveilling his property to see, we're kind of surveilling his property to see what he was going to use, but really, really wild stuff. So I don't know, Boston B, it's been a pretty freaky night, man.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of interesting and a lot left me speechless for sure. That doesn't happen often.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we all struggle to kind of understand and try to think about explaining. By the way, I got one more thing. We were talking about satellites earlier, so I wanted to finish up. Right there, you can see there's Earth. You can see the satellite in orbit, and you could see perigee is when you're closest to Earth, and then apogee is when you're going furthest away. And then you could see that the satellite will get closer and further views depending upon what you're trying to look at. And then it is gaining and losing speed as it goes through apogee and perigee. So there's your little space lesson for today. Not that anybody wanted that, but there we are. When you watch Cab, you just never know what you're going to get. Ruth,
you never know. No, you don't.
I know. Well, this Saturday, you're going to get, let me see if I can get this up on screen. So we can look at that. Calling All Beings is the show. And this is my man from Florida. Here we go. All right, let me get this up on screen. Let me present share. One of these days, we're going to be able to have a producer. I don't know when it's going to be. There we go. Filmmaker, researcher, Bigfoot Unparanormal, Stacy Brown Jr. of Florida. Really cool guy, very smart guy. Ruthie, you're going to love him because Stacy loves some conspiracy theories. So I think you guys are going to get along well. And he also is definitely a fearless researcher. And a guy who goes out and camps in the woods and does these things. He's not just an analyst like me. He actually goes out and does damn things. So come see us Saturday night at, I want to say 8 p.m. Eastern for Stacy Brown Jr. And we should have, I'm expecting, Bia, who are we expecting? Do you remember our co-hosts? Can you remember their names?
Oh, Sevilla and Jim.
Yep.
Yes.
Sibylla Irwin, the legendary Texas Bigfoot researcher who has spent more hours researching Bigfoot. She's like Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. And Jim Myers of Sasquatch Outpost here in Colorado. So, final comments, Jules.
Not a lot. I this is my favorite kind of stuff, and I'm glad that you invited me on. I apologize for my appearance. I just was running around. I'm like, yeah, they want me on. I ran outside and tried to set something up, but I don't think I even brushed my hair. I'm always fascinated by the things we don't know in this world, and I love to ponder. So, that's my little joy in life, is pondering all these weird things.
I know. I mean, this is what we live for, right? So,
yeah.
Look at this. We got to thank you. Renee's here. Renee, let me know when you want me to be on your show beforehand so I can show up and be on with you. You're welcome, Ruth Christie. Thank you for being here and supporting us. Be here Saturday night, Stacy Brown Jr., and we're going to do the damn thing. Final comments from you, ma'am.
it's always good to keep our minds open and just explore all the possibilities. We don't know it all, but it's certainly interesting. And just keep wondering.
I think people are liking your hair. I don't know what's going on. Oh, wait, there we go. And Jules, thanks for joining us. Thank you, all you cabbies in the chat. We love you guys and appreciate you very much. And we will see you Saturday night, mate.
Yes, and early happy birthday to DJ, everyone. His birthday's Wednesday, so happy birthday. Early birthday.
Thank you so much, Boston Bia. I appreciate you. I'm going to be older, as it turns out.
Yes.
And
still older.
Happy birthday to you.
Where's the bong?
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, dear DJ.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
It's too early. It's too early, but we'll see you guys.
Hey, it's your birthday week.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward to it. Look forward to saying, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it. Wait,
no,
is that it?
No. You still got to practice.
Okay.
We got to practice. No, you got to put your hands down a little more.
There it goes.
Oh, all right.
We got it. Okay.
Close enough.
Yep. I'll see
I don't
you
even know
guys.
if I can do it. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be here Wednesday, although there's an outside chance, but I don't think we'll be here Wednesday. Also, we're going to have from Twitter Spaces, Jay Boogie and Amy coming up next week. These guys are so cool. They're so into the unexplained, and I love the way that they host and co-host together. They're almost like Bia and I, but just... Bia.
Tough man.
We love you guys. We love you, Jules. Take care,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.